Artists never want record labels to own their masters, but they want their careers to be big. And the thing that you may be wondering is, why do they want these masters in the first place? So if you want to know why they want them in the first place, then tune in to today's episode of the Music Money Makeover Show. Let's just cut to the chase. Why do they want these masters? They want an interest in your life so they can make due diligence money, or at least that's what I like to call it. The problem for you is how much interest you're going to give them. How will this make you feel after the deal has been done and you're 2 to 3 years down the road? Will your due diligence be high enough for the deal to matter in the first place, or will it not be? And that's the real question that we're asking here. So what we have to explore now is, what is interest and why do they want the interest in the scenario that we're talking about? And then what is due diligence in the scenario that we're talking about? And why does that even matter to the record label? Now, interest and due diligence go hand in hand, and you may have heard these words before, but let's dig in. What is interest? In our use case, it is a noun, a stake, a share, or involvement in an undertaking, especially a financial one. For example, holders of voting rights must disclose their interest. He must have no personal interest in the outcome of the case. But here's where it really gets to where we're trying to get to: a legal concern, title, or right to property. All right, so this is not like bank interest or anything like that, or interest you pay on money. This is a right to ownership or a title. In this case, your copyrights, a right to ownership of your copyrights. And many of you all know from watching many of my videos, this interest comes from the transference of rights that is in the record contract and in the producer's contract. Okay, so now that we know what this interest is, let's dig a little bit deeper on it. Why record labels want an interest in your life is the real question. Truth be told, every employer or business wants an interest in your life. Your job wants your time and labor, and stores want you to spend the money you've earned with them. The record label is no different. They aim to become partners with you, gaining an interest in your life. Their goal is to grow your career, making the product, which is you, more valuable over time, so people will continue buying and listening. In essence, they act both as the employer and the store owner simultaneously. So if you never give up your masters, then you act as the store owner and the record label simultaneously. But when you split this ownership and you become the promoter for this store and the record label, you kind of lose your interest, if you will, to everything that you're doing, because what you'll be getting paid is a royalty. And in some cases, this makes sense for your life. In some cases, it might not make so much sense for your life. But in order for the interest to make sense with your life, we really have to look at what's coming next, and that's due diligence. So what is due diligence? In our use case, it's a noun, and we got to dig into the law a little bit. Reasonable steps taken by a person in order to satisfy a legal requirement, especially in buying or selling something. So let's look at reasonable steps. Actually, let me keep reading, but let's take a look at reasonable steps in buying and selling something. So a comprehensive appraisal, that's the consumer, of a business undertaken by a prospective buyer, especially to establish its assets and liabilities and evaluate its commercial potential. So put yourself in the person who's listening to you. They're going to do their due diligence on you by, they may hear your record and they say, hey, oh man, that's amazing. Oh, that's an amazing video. And I want to dig in and see if there's more. So recently, I think I seen an artist out of Oakland named Paris Nights. I saw a video on YouTube. YouTube just gave it to me. They recommended it to me. And I was like, oh, this is fire. This is dope. Let me see what's going on. So I did my due diligence to see if I was going to press follow. I hit follow because I'm intrigued by what she's doing and I want to see how the growth happens. You understand what I'm saying? So now the record label knows that this is going to happen from the consumers, and the record labels want to be a part of that. Their goal, as I said, in interest, was to grow you, okay? They want to grow that interest, or the value of the interest that they have, so that when the customer comes along, they will do their due diligence. But what happens when the due diligence stacks up over time? Check it out. What is due diligence money? Due diligence money is revenue generated from consumers listening to or consuming your song after its initial 18-month period, often occurring in the waves of renewed popularity or nostalgia. I like to call this retroactivity. All right. The phenomenon is particularly noticeable when artists celebrate their 10th, 15th, and 20th anniversaries or embark on reunion tours. So for labels or artists who own their masters, these events typically trigger significant spikes in revenue. And not even at these points, but let's say you drop an album this year, and then next year your album is even bigger than the one you dropped this year, right? But for those who really became a fan, they're going to listen to the album you just dropped in 2025, and they're going to come back to 2024 and listen to that album. So let's paint a scenario here. Let's say, because this happens to a lot of artists, your album this year in 2024 is independent, and the label doesn't want that. But what ends up happening is the label says, hey, I want to sign you to a deal, and in 2025 we'll put out an album. We do a great job on the promotion of the 2025 album, and then that sparks growth independently on your 2024 album. Same thing happened to Russ. Same thing happened when I produced an album for Baby Rose, and she went major, but our independent album still gained some traction. It has a wave that happens retroactively. So if you drop something in 2026 that's even bigger, the fans and the collectors of the albums will want to go back 2 years or to the last 2 albums to check out what they've missed if they just came along. And for those that own an interest in your rights and titles, right? That's their whole purpose to have it. So that when you get to your 10th year, your 15th year, people will remember those records, you get to perform them, and then they get to rise in revenue. There's ebb and flow. And this is why you want to own catalog, to the point where the flow just stays up here and it never goes down, because you've done so well in betting that the artist that you will sign will do very well, because you've learned how to really A&R projects and learn how to really seek for great talent. And then once you make that bet, you know that I'm going to make so many great signings, or at least if you're running the standard rule of major labels where for every 10 you're going to get one, a 10-to-1 ratio, that I know I'm going to have to sign 100 acts to get 10 to pay to keep the lights on, then we're cooking with gas here. Now that doesn't really work too much anymore, so labels don't really develop artists, which they should, which would increase that ratio, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? It could happen. But that's why they want your masters, because of the due diligence money that shows up down the line as you get bigger and bigger and bigger. So here's another scenario, and we'll keep it moving. Let's say you're an independent record label and all you do is deal with independent artists, okay? And you may upstream them, unfortunately, due to my evil video I put out a while back. You all may remember this video, but let's say all you do is you finance independent artists at an independent scale. You grow them, and then you keep those masters, and then you upstream that artist into the label system, and then they take them from there. You know what I'm saying? If that's your scheme, if that's your thing, then cool. You end up having a lot more chances at bat with due diligence with less invested. You see what I'm saying? This is how this goes. And scenario 3 is if you're so smart to stay independent, then you will get the fruits of your labor for all of this stuff. The interest that you own to be able to leverage it for money later, and the money that you will receive from the consumers from listening down the line as you grow bigger and bigger and bigger. See what I'm saying? This is the whole point to it. Let's keep going. Well, why would an artist do a deal in this scenario? If the record label has the muscle and resources to break you into public consciousness, then due diligence money becomes expected. As an artist, you want this to happen for your career so other ventures can be capitalized on, as well as receiving due diligence royalties over time. Easy enough, simple enough. I've said this already. Let's keep going. Can this happen independently? Yes, it can happen independently, because breaking into public consciousness may take up to 10 years, but once you do, you can also enjoy due diligence money as well. It may sound like I'm talking about mailbox money, and yes, I am talking about mailbox money, but it's the way you get the mailbox money, which is what I'm talking about, right? You expect this to happen as periods of retroactivity comes along to stimulate the masters that you already own, right? Something goes viral on TikTok, which you had no control over, but it was a moment of nostalgia. People do the dance and all of this, that, and the third. And then the next thing you know, a rush of cash comes in. Might not be as much as it was when it had its initial bang period, but you get some more cash. It's like a domino effect, or it's like a reverberation tail, if you will. Well, why do you want to break public consciousness? Public consciousness refers to the level of impact you make on the public, becoming a household name regionally, nationally, or internationally among various groups or various interest groups. If your impact is significant enough, you'll achieve widespread recognition. You want to reach this level of influence at a scale high enough to sustain yourself for years to come and create valuable copyright assets to pass down to your children or family. At least most do. Some of you all are doing it for fun, and some of you all are doing it for legacy. I'm not going to say money. Some are doing it for fun, and some are doing it for legacy. That's a video for another day. I'll put a pin in that one. Okay? But that's the truth here. You want to break public consciousness, because if you don't, you kind of slide under that radar and the due diligence money won't be as high as you might expect it to be, as I was saying here. All right. But if you position yourself to keep your interest and to keep the interest that will happen with the due diligence later down the line of the fans and consumers coming in, you're going to need a foundation to set this game plan up on. So therefore, if you need to build your record label or publishing company in 60 days or less, with a foolproof step-by-step process, jump into my 60-day record label course beneath this video right now today. You'll gain the ability to get funding for that record label or publishing company. And on top of that, you'll prevent yourself from getting screwed contractually, and you'll be able to keep the middleman out of your pockets when it comes to that international and domestic publishing and record royalty money. All right. If this sounds a little bit too good to be true to you, it's not too good to be true, because hundreds of people have already taken this course. But grab my free guide, 10 Major Steps to Increase Your Record Label's Profits. A free split sheet is included with the download, as well as a mini course that explains more about the course. All right. So here is the upside. And I don't really think I have to give you an upside, but here it is. If your deal or label situation is right for this, then you will enjoy your career financially. Your copyright assets will be valuable for years to come, allowing you to make even more deals if you own them. All right. The mass attention of being an artist will also open up other opportunities down the road, and that's what we want. That's the upside. There's always upside on if you promote the assets the right way. But here's the downside. If your deals are not in favor of due diligence money, chances are you won't see the substantial amounts of money or attention you'd hope for as you approach 15 years in the industry. This often results from the label's failed attempts to make you blow up, quote unquote, big enough to matter. However, roadblocks can also come from your initial, internal staff, or even yourself directly. All right. So it's not always the deal, but sometimes it could be management that screws stuff up because they don't really know how to manage things properly. It could be the artist not making great decisions and the management going along with the artist. It could be that the label folded, like TVT Records, unfortunately. It could be situations where, things that you never really would have thought would have affected you, and now you have to pivot, right? We don't know. That's the downside to things. But I know this, now you know the real reason why record labels want to own your masters, and if you want to own them yourselves, go ahead and jump into that 60-day record label course so you can be the music mogul that you've always wanted to be. Music Money Makers, if you make music, you should always make money. Log on to musicmoneymakeover.com, jump into the 60-day record label course beneath this video, download the free stuff, book a call with me on musicmoneymakeover.com, smash the like button, and I'll see you next time. Peace.